From one wartime leader to another, let's talk about Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. He was everywhere in 2022, in posters, in parliaments, in newspapers. He was arguably the most discussed person on earth. But all that has changed. Zelensky is running out of money to fight Russia, and his banker has shut shop. I'm talking about the United States. Joe Biden asked the US Congress for more money, around $61 billion for Ukraine, but Republicans in Congress said no. So Zelensky hopped on a flight. He spent the whole of Tuesday in Washington, D.C. He met Republicans, he met Democrats, he also met President Joe Biden. His mission was to rally American lawmakers. Unfortunately, he failed. The Republicans are not going to budge. Let me tell you how the day unfolded. First, Zelensky headed to the U.S. Capitol, which is their parliament. He met senior Democrats and Republicans. Here's what the Senate Majority Leader said afterwards.
It was a very powerful meeting. President Zelensky made it so clear how he needs help, but if he gets the help, he can win this war. On the other hand, he made it clear, and we all made it clear, that if we lose, Putin wins. And this will be very, very dangerous for the United States. So we cannot let Putin influence through any surrogate what we need to do for Ukraine.
A meeting can be good, it can be bad, it can also be okayish. But how can a meeting be powerful? That's what you say when talks fail, powerful meeting. And the mood in Washington, D.C. reflected that. Zelensky had visited the U.S. Capitol in December last year. The atmosphere was very different then. Kiev's counteroffensive had been a success. Russia was isolated. Washington was draped in Ukrainian flags. Zelensky even addressed a joint session of the U.S. Congress. But this time, it was low-key, a very business-like mood, and the reasons are obvious. Kiev's second counteroffensive has failed, so U.S. lawmakers are asking, why should we give you more money? What's the strategy here? And yes, there is domestic politics too. Republicans want to give the aid on one condition. They want more funding for the southern border, basically tougher immigration curbs.
I have asked the White House since the day that I was handed the gavel as Speaker for clarity. We need a clear articulation of the strategy to allow Ukraine to win. And thus far, their responses have been insufficient. I have also made very clear from day one that our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe, and this is because of the policies of this White House and this administration.
I know what you're thinking. Why doesn't Joe Biden just give him what he wants? Because then some Democrats may not support his bill, so it's a tough call for Biden. The White House says aid will run out by the end of this month, plus Congress is breaking for holidays. It will convene again in the new year. So right now, it looks like mission impossible. And Biden realizes this. During his meeting with Zelensky, the president changed his tone. He usually promises endless support, but not this time. See if you can spot the difference between Biden's old speeches and this one.
The American people have been with you every step of the way, and we will stay with you. We will stay with you for as long as it takes. I believe we'll have the funding necessary to support Ukraine as long as it takes. Will not weaken. We will stand for liberty and freedom today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes. A powerful statement of our commitment to Ukraine as it defends its freedom today and as it rebuilds the future, and as we're going to be there as long as that takes. The American people can be and should be incredibly proud of the part they played in supporting Ukraine's success. We'll continue to supply Ukraine with critical weapons and equipment as long as we can, including $200 million I just approved today.
Hope you spotted it. Biden usually promises to support Ukraine as long as it takes. But this time he did not. He said, as long as we can. So has the president changed his speechwriter, or has he changed his policy? Right now, the latter seems more likely, a policy change. He did give Zelensky something, though, $200 million. Normally, it would seem like a lot of money, $200 million, but it's just 0.3% of what Ukraine is asking for. So Zelensky asked for the moon, and Biden gave him a rock. Nonetheless, he's pushing on. Zelensky says financing is not the problem, morale is. And with or without American money, Ukraine will fight.
It's not about financing. It's about the morality. The biggest problem, when you don't support Ukraine, that people on the front line, families which are waiting for their heroes at home, that they think that the United States doesn't support Ukraine and that Ukraine is alone. And of course, people afraid to be again alone. But you have to know that even if we will stand and fight.
But for how much longer? If US funding stops, Ukraine will lose. Even Europe knows that. More than 100 senior EU lawmakers have written a letter to Congress, to the US Congress. They want the US to keep giving aid. It's a pretty rare move. Lawmakers of one country or region making a request to lawmakers of another country. It shows you their urgency. Questions must also be asked of Zelensky. Not everyone is happy with his leadership. The mayor of Kiev says Zelensky is becoming an autocrat. His commander-in-chief says the war is at a stalemate. In fact, there's a growing rivalry between the two, Zelensky and his top general. They're at odds. Some reports say he could soon fire him. He would fire the general. Things are so bad that the defense minister had to clarify.
I always joke with the commander-in-chief about this question. I ask him, who is firing you this time? In this regard, I am always open. If there are such questions, I will let you know. There are no such questions on the agenda. We had questions regarding some commanders, though.
So all is not well in Kiev's war room. There is no progress anywhere. Not on the battlefield, not on foreign aid, and not in Brussels. The European Union is holding a summit this week. On the agenda is Ukraine's membership. Zelensky was hoping to join the EU as soon as possible, but one EU member is saying no. That's Hungary. So I guess the question is, why not begin talks with Russia? Moscow realizes that the momentum has swung, so they're driving home the advantage. Today they fired ballistic missiles at Kiev. It's the second such attack in 1 week. Ukraine says at least 53 people were killed, so Zelensky needs to take a call now. Does he gamble on the US Congress coming around? Does he fight alone? Or does he pursue a political settlement? Frankly, an endless war helps no one. People may talk about you for months on end, but eventually the world moves on. If you don't believe me, look at the Time magazine. In 2022, they named Zelensky as Person of the Year. This year, it's Taylor Swift. That's the world we live in. And that's the reality that Ukraine must accept.